Buenas tardes. I am the first woman ever Surgeon General of this United States of America. And I am also a VIP, a very important Puerto Rican. I don't know if I want to do like Boris and just give you a walking tour because my knees are still okay. Or if I'm going to just tell you that being a Surgeon General is the greatest honor that you can ever have, but even more so when you follow Everett Koop. I was asked many times, how does it feel to follow the footsteps of Dr. Koop? And I will tell them, I am a pediatrician, not a podiatrist. How do you feel? How do you feel being the Surgeon General of the United States after Dr. Koop? I say, I feel like Ginger Rogers doing the same dance, but in reverse and with high heels, so I must do it better. And they would also ask me, how does it feel to be Surgeon General? And I am a career Surgeon General. That when I went for the appointment for becoming one, the first question that I was asked of me after being with Dr. Sullivan for 1 hour, it was the political arm of the politics, and asked Dr. Sullivan, now that you have offered her the job, can we ask her what has she done for the party? And I said, absolutely nothing. So Dr. Sullivan looked at me and looked at him, and I said, don't worry, the Hatch Act protects me of making any decision that is political, so get this job going. Now, I am a true career officer that was at the NIH, and maybe because there was the report on HIV and AIDS in children, maybe because that was the first time that we implemented the GAO report that when a woman pays her taxes, she deserves her own research, and maybe because that was also the time in where we were doing everything that was right. I was probably picked up from a crowd. How could you follow Dr. Koop? You had to follow with someone that was probably invisible, short, female, with an accent, but not, she talks with an accent, but she doesn't think with an accent. So therefore, I was chosen. Thank you. When I finally made it as a Surgeon General, I realized one important thing. There was only $1 million for your 4 years to be able to get your pay, your people's pay, your furniture, your travel, and everything that came under that. And very soon I realized that you had to choose old furniture, and I did, but it took 6 months to come. And then I realized that the ones that were doing the reupholstery was the prisoners, and they thought I was the Attorney General and not the Surgeon General. So, second thing that I learned that I thought it was very important, you have to be a Surgeon General with an agenda. It's not your impression, it's not your opinions, it's the facts. Otherwise, with only $1 million in budget for 4 years, the National Health and the NIH would look for something that they wanted to pass, give you a spokesperson, and then make sure that their agenda was yours. That's not what you did. So I took upon myself the agenda of tobacco, which the Surgeon General cannot get out of there. And having read all the excerpts of the tobacco industry telling them, choose her, she knows nothing, tell them to tell me that now after I told old Joe, just take a hike. So never trust what you read, but what you people do. The second thing that I saw was very important, I got the Surgeon Generals of the Army, Navy, Air Force to march with me down Chicago Avenue to tell old Joe to take a hike. And just before we marched, the White House called me and says, you cannot mention old Joe. I said, can I point? So at that stage of the game, walking down that avenue, I was pointing. So I think because of that, I have no idea what I was fired, but at this moment, old Joe is no longer here. The second thing that I thought was important, my tobacco report was never too late to quit, and I think it was a very upbeating in where you stop, and maybe the chances of getting your lungs where they were before will come back. And I think that was a very good report. The second report that was mine was the second AIDS report after Dr. Koop, where we had to deal with the quilts, the sickness, and the first time that we were having treatment for the patients with AIDS. And I have to tell you, Tony Fauci appreciates it because it was not in my report showing like he was a patient with AIDS. Now, at the same token, women's health. For the first time, HHS took a women's research as part of their goal. And at that time, I thought it was very important that Bernadine Healy became the first woman director of the NIH with a 20-year report of women's health. Underage drinking was something that was extremely important, but as I was telling you, if you have no agenda, you have no way to move it, no money. So the Inspector General gave me $75,000, and I produced 7 reports on underage drinking, and I was stupid enough that I put it under his name. So those 7 Inspector General reports are the Surgeon General reports of the United States of America that someday will come forward. As of this moment, they are all compiled in one big project, and they are given to every single school of the United States as part of the education of this country, where some places the law is so weak that parents can be with you and you can drink, and even the gumbo of Louisiana has more alcohol than the thing I drink for communion. Now, Hispanic Health was the other thing that was done during my time, and I thought it was extremely important that at that time, even the CDC used to call us others. So it was important to be able to acknowledge that we were 34% of the people without insurance, and that is why it's so important that if this law is going to have to stay, we modify it, but it cannot go away. It helps too many people. So I have to tell you that one of the things about having the agenda is no one can convince you of doing their job. You do what is good for the country. The Surgeon General is an office in where you're not a politician. Your 15 minutes never come. Everybody talks about what you do wrong, but no one talks about what you do good. And at this moment, it's extremely important that we realize that without the Surgeon General, there's not a spokesperson that has nothing to gain but what is best in data and facts for the benefit of the American public. Some of us will be remembered more than others. But no one can ever forget that we are Surgeon Generals of the United States, which we are apolitical. And the first thing I learned when I was 1 is you do not invent policy out of fear. I have to also tell you that the day that I heard I was no longer the Surgeon General of the United States, David was lucky. He stayed 1 more year. I heard on the 9th of December of 1992, that Joycelyn has been selected as the Surgeon General of the United States. And I remember vividly that my husband, psychiatrist, says, you had a primal screen. And I said, doesn't the president know that this is a 4-year contract? What do I do now? I happen to have had that day one of the most important tobacco meetings that I had to go at HHS. And Joe says, you go out there like with a patient with cancer. You go ahead and do your job and try to treat it like if nothing has happened. It's not your problem. And the press called me and I says, do not misjudge dignity against weakness, but the president is the chairman of the United States Forces, and his wisdom has decided to do this. So I walk into my meeting, and I have no idea what made me do this. I was surrounded by every political person on tobacco, and I entered the meeting limping. Of course, everybody came to me, what's wrong, Dr. Novello? And I said, I am a lame duck, but let's get this show on the road. So, at this moment, there's no more honorable job than to take care of your peers with what you have in science and in data. And some of us will never be remembered, but some of us will be alive because of what we concocted in our reports. So let me leave you with the words of Yehuda Bauer, the great Holocaust historian, that on the 50th anniversary of the human rights at the UN says there are 3 extra commandments that we should honor, equal to the 10 ones that we cherish. The first one is thou shalt not be a victim. The second one is thou shalt not be a perpetrator. And the third one is thou shalt not be a bystander. Don't let anyone know that a Surgeon General has ever been a bystander. Thank you very much.